Bismillahirrahmanirrahim and Assalamu alaikum, dear students of second year class. Today we are going to discuss in chapter number 8 the access specifier. So before this, what we have discussed about classes and objects, and then what we can do inside the class, what we can do with objects and their programming. So today, inshallah, we are going to study in much detail about the access specifiers. So there are three access specifiers. We have even discussed this in the previous class as well, and their names are So we have three access specifiers, namely there are private access specifiers, the public access specifiers, and protected access specifiers. The main and the sole purpose of the access specifier is to see that where the members can be used, where the members can be accessed, and where they cannot be accessed. So these access specifiers we need to study that what access specifier, whatever you write under an access specifier, so whether it can be used inside the class or outside the class, or the base class, that is derived class, or the main class, so where it can be used or where it cannot be used. So that is the sole purpose of access specifier. If I write this in a single line, so which access specifier scope or range, I would say, is up to where. So first of all, we take start from the private access specifier. When we declare some members of the class as private, inside the class, normally we discussed earlier as well that normally the member data is written under the private. But whatever you write under the private access specifier, or you specify that okay, this member data or this member function should be private inside the class. So the private members can only be accessed inside the class in which they are declared. So private data, private members can only be accessed inside the class. Outside the class it cannot be accessed, and by the friend function. So the range, the scope of these private members are very limited. They are private to that class only in which they are declared, or they can be accessed only by the friend function of that class. Let me give you an example program, and it will show us very clearly that whether you can access these private data inside the main function or not, can then be accessed by the derived class or not. So they cannot be derived by they cannot be used by the derived class, they cannot be accessed inside the derived class, they cannot be accessed by the main function. They are only accessible by inside the class or by the friend function. So let me show this by an example program. We have created a class by the name of test, and inside that class we have a private access specifier. Under private I take two variables, one is int and one is float, and this is what we call member data. So these are the member data. Then under the public I take another function int a float b. So by this semicolon your class finishes, the white get function starts from here, the white function finishes here, the class starts from here and here. So this area is your member function. Right? Now let's write the main function for this class, and I would write that main function here. This program is continued from here up to here. So now what I am going to do, I am writing a main function, and that is void main. Here I need your attention in this portion that would give us a complete detail and a complete picture of the private class, private member function, that whether they can be accessed, whether they cannot be accessed. Here for class test I create an object, and if I write obj dot x equal to 10, obj dot y equal to 5.25, and obj dot get is equal to 15, 13.55. See, here and here. Here you are going to access the private member data with the help of object of the class, which is not possible, not permissible, cannot be accessed. So you will get an error. Here you are trying to access the private member data of the class because they are declared already private. When you want to access them with the help of an object, it will give you an error message, yet it is not possible. But when you are calling the public area, this is the public area, that get function is it is declared as public. So when you call this public area, that is correct. It will not give you any error message, and that is wrong. So this is how it has give us very clear message that okay, the private members can only be accessed inside the class body or by the friend function. So now we move to another access specifier, and that is public. Dear students, the public access specifier can be accessed inside the class in which they are declared. They can also be accessed by the derived class of that base class, and I would say if it is a parent class, so its child class can access the public members of the class, and the public members can be accessed inside the main function as well, and the public member functions can be accessed by the friend function as well. So you know, four different areas, so you can see everywhere you can access the public member function. Inside the class body, they can be accessed by the friend function, they can be accessed in the main function, and they can access by the derived function, derived class as well. So let me write this definition. They can be accessed inside the class, they can be accessed by the friend function, they can be accessed by the main function, and they can be accessed by the derived function, or not function, derived or child class can also access. So this is the range. It's a huge range of public class. So there are two opposite things: private for the class; public for everyone. Even it can be used inside the main function. It can be used by a friend function, and it can be accessed and used by the derived class. Let me write an example program, so it will give you a very clear picture that whether we can access them or not. And that is why they are called access specifiers, that where you should know in advance where they can be accessed, where they cannot be accessed. So again, I am writing a program. Again, we have created a class by the name of test, and what is above the class, you know very clearly that okay, we have header files, we have iostream, conio.h, etc., hash include, and then inside the test class, I am again taking some private members, that is int x, float y. I am repeating the same program written previously, but with different techniques. In previous class, we have written it as a private. Now I am making it, or I am converting it from private to public. Now we have declared that this member data will be public, and then I am taking a function as well, void get int a float b, and we have initialized this variable by a, Initialize another variable by b. Your class finishes here. Now let me write the main part, the main function for this program. Void main. Now if I write test obj, what is this obj? It is an object for the class test. And as we discussed in the object, an object basically takes a complete copy of the class to the memory. Now inside this memory we have only public area. Everything is public. If everything is public, it means we can access them inside the main function. So if I write object dot x equal to some value, object dot y equal to some value, or I write object dot function call with some value. Now dear student, this is also correct, this is also permissible, this is also permissible. Why? Because everything is public. If everything is public, they can be accessed inside the class, they can be accessed by the main function, they can be accessed by the friend class, and they can be accessed by the derived or child class as well. So this function, this program gives us a clear message that it can be used and utilized and accessed in the main function as well. Okay, so now we move to the protected access specifier. That is the third one, and we have these three access specifiers. The two we use normally. Normally in your programming you have used private and public, but we have never used protected access specifier. Why I'm discussing right now? Okay. The protected access specifier is specially designed for inheritance. In inheritance, we have a concept of base and child. We have a concept of a base class which is derived by a derived class. Or you can say a parent class and a child class. When you have a concept of a base and derived or a parent and child class, then we are not using private access specifier in base class. Normally we use protected. Why? Because when you make it private, so it cannot be accessed by the derived class. We have clearly written in the previous that if it is private for the child or derived class as well. Now if the programmer wants to access the private data inside the derived class only, he wants it to be private for the main function, he wants it to private for any other outside the class, but he wants to access it for the inside the derived class, then a specially designed access specifier for inheritance you will be using, and that is protected. What is protected? So this is, the whole story of the protected access specifier. When you declare the member data is protected, so they become visible. They can be accessed inside the derived class as well. So it is visible inside the class only, and it is visible for the derived class only, and for the friend function as well. Friend function can also access this. So, but outside the class, for main or for any other class or function, it is still private. So this is an example of protected, and if we put protected in that example, so whenever let me write an individual program for that, so it will get more clear. In place of private, I am writing protected. Int x load y public. You write a function void member data get initialized here, the class finish. Now I am making another class which will derive the class test, and if I give this name as a base, it will become more clear to people. It is a base class. Now I am making a derived or child class which will access this class. So another class, after this I am making another class, and that is class derived. Okay, this spelling is fine. And here I am just public int y, and y is equal to x. I will take it z or z, x plus y. So here what I am doing, I am accessing the protected member data in another class. How? If and only if you derive this class. If I derive this class, public base. When you write this, it becomes your parent class, and it becomes your child class. When you derive this, now you can use, you can utilize, you can access the protected member data. As it is not included in our course, but since the protected access specifier is there in your course, that is why I have given an example from the inheritance. But inheritance is being excluded in your, it is not present in your smart syllabus. So I think that is sufficient, that when you study the protected access specifier, it gives you much information, and that is much sufficient for that. And after this, now we move to another topic, and that is data hiding. So dear student, the next topic we have is data hiding. We were using some concepts of data hiding in C language as well by struct. When you are using a struct function over there, so it is also a kind of data hiding, but even then the data is not hidden. not protected properly over there. But in C++, what is data hiding when you are using the private or the protected access specifier? So the data becomes locked, it becomes hidden from the other functions and other classes. So when it is private, as already we have discussed, that it can be only accessed, it can only be weaved inside that class in which they are declared. So it is hidden from all over the other functions and classes outside that class. This is what we call data hiding. And when you make it a protected, when an access specifier protected we use inside the class, so again it cannot be accessed inside the main class, it is hidden from the main class, it is main function, sorry, it is hidden from the main function, and it is also hidden from other classes outside that class. So let me write a complete table which gives you a complete information that which access specifier can be accessed, can be utilized in which area. Let me draw a complete table, and from this, inshallah, we get a clear information that where we can use and access these private members, protected members, and public members. Okay, so we have private access specifier, we have protected access specifier, and we have public access specifier. And now let me give some headings to these things. These are the access specifiers, inside the class, outside the class, the class running, and outside the class, and then the derived class. Students, if you declare members of the class private, they can be used inside the class, or they can be accessed inside the class, but they cannot be accessed outside the class. They cannot be accessed inside the derived class. So it is private for the inside the class only. If we declare members of the class as protected, so they can be used inside the class, yes. They can be used outside the class, no. And they can be used derived class, yes, because it is specially designed for parent-child combination, and it is specially designed for the derived class. So derived class can access protected data of the base class. And if you declare member data or member function as public of the class, so whether they can be used inside the class, yes. Whether they can be accessed outside the class, yes. What do you mean by outside the class? By the friend function, by the derived class, by the main function, access everywhere. Whether they can be used and accessed inside the derived class, yes. So dear students, everyone should design a table like this, and it will give you a complete picture, a complete understanding of different access specifier. So that is for today what we have studied, and we have studied three main topics. First one was the access specifiers, we discussed three access specifiers: public, protected, private. Then the next topic was about the data hiding, and we have created different programs for different access specifiers as well. I hope you have enjoyed today's class. Thank you very much. God bless you.